Hi Project Up. We are going to review the Rowfficient warm-up that we like to prescribe to rowers before they get on the erg, before they go out in the boat. It's really just an overall good way to get the blood flowing, to get the correct areas that you need flexibility in to be mobilized before we start moving. So usually we like to start with about a 5 to 10 minute run or bike. So let's pretend that I've already done that and I've come back. Then we like to just go through some lunge sequences. So the first one that we like to do is 10 front lunges. Just making sure that you're stepping far enough away from your body, your knees aren't really going over your feet. And then we switch to 10 reverse lunges, allowing our hip flexors to open up a little bit more. And then we switch to 10 on each side lunges. So that's really trying to get into our groin, trying to open up the back of our glutes and really feel the hip sockets start to work. And we'll go 10 on each side for that. After that, we're going to move to some leg swings. We do 10 leg swings on each leg. This is really just feeling full range of motion and getting the hamstrings to start to open up. We'll do 10 on the left leg as well. And then we switch to the side where we're going to get across our body. That's to work on adductors and groin and piriformis as well. 10 on that side, 10 on this side. And then we move into some banded stretches. So we recommend that every rower and every boathouse gets a few of these. The best ones that you can use are the Rogue Green Band. This one, I believe, is a Rage Fitness that we got from Dick's. But the green is usually the color that is medium strength. So you can do a green or you can start with a purple, which is a little bit lighter. But green really is the right amount to get your joints opening up. So you step inside the band that you've got hooked up to something that will keep it in place. So whether that's like a pole or if it's the side of a rig, we've used a bunch of different things to make this work. You step through and you hope that it stays in place. And then you move your back leg, the one that's in the band, behind you. And we're essentially going to do a reverse lunge. And you're going to squeeze the back glute and make sure that your hips stay square and your torso stays up. So I'm going to squeeze my glute and drop down. Hold for a second, come back up, release my glute. Squeeze my glute, drop down, hold for a second, come back up. And we do that for both legs. Then once you get both of those legs done, we'll step back in. We're going to do a forward lunge. I've got the band right in my hip socket. If you're tight in this area, just having the band there is going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but that's the point. By putting something on a tight tissue, you're actually kind of ripping it open, and that's eventually going to become easier and will be less painful as you go. It's not a bad thing. So we're going to reach towards the floor into a lunge position, hold for a second, and then straighten the leg and tighten your quad. That's where the change happens. This band is distracting our hips backwards. So we're gonna lunge and then come up here and tighten your quad. If you can't touch the ground, it's fine to hold your shin. We like to do 10 on each side for that. Switch legs. And then the last banded exercise is a hip hinge. The hinge in rowing is hugely important. So often we see rowers, and in ourselves as well, getting to the catch with your butt tucked up underneath you. You're losing a ton of power when you let that happen. The best powerful position and the strongest and healthiest position to stay in is a position where your hips are hinged over and your pelvis stays in a rocked over position when you're at the catch, trying to create power. So for this one, we put the band on our front leg, step that leg forward, turn your toe in. And then from this position, we're gonna squeeze the glute and hinge just from the hips. We don't wanna be hinging from the back or hinging from the shoulders. We're just turning the hips over as far as they will go. You're gonna feel it as a tug in your hamstring, and then release and let go of the quad. Tighten the quad, hinge, release. So we'll do 10 on both sides for that. And then we just like to do a couple of stretches that are a little bit more on the static side, but they make a huge difference for rowers. So adductors are a secret area that get very tight, that keep us from getting into a good position at the catch. So we like to open up the adductors before we row with the frog stretch. And that's just get down on the ground, Open up your knees as wide as you can. You can keep your toes pointed together or apart. They kind of stretch at slightly different areas. I like to keep mine together, and then just lower yourself to the ground and hold this for a couple of minutes. It can be nasty if you're tight in there. But as you sit in this position and you breathe through it, you should feel yourself have a change, and you should feel everything start to open up. And then the last one we like to do is a piriformis stretch. If you are really flexible, you might be able to do this on the ground. I have super tight external rotators, so I like to do this on a box, or we don't have a box here, so we're using a dog cage. But anything that's really like high enough up that you can get into this kind of position, I'll let you just put your foot up on whatever structure you have and try to work to the point where your knee is going to be down even with your foot. And it might take a minute or two, so you just kind of sit here. You can tighten and relax your glutes, but slowly get to the point where, oh, now my knee is flat, and you've really started to see a change in your external rotators. We do all of that before we get on the erg or before we get in the boat. And the reason why that's important is because these movements are now going to allow me to get into a good position in the rowing stroke. If we go to the rowing stroke before we do all of that, we're ingraining bad motor patterns. We are trying to take as many good strokes as possible so that the only kind of strokes we're taking are the ones we want our body and our muscles to remember. So after that's all over, we move to the erg, and in a separate video, we're going to show you the short erg warm-up that we include after going through that mobilization. Thanks.